Okay, feel free to play along, YouTube. If anyone wants to take an A, feel free. Can you check and see if this is coming? Please.
Yes.
Great. Thanks. Welcome. We'll all get to know each other hopefully in like about 45 to 60 minutes. I just thought it'd be cool to just start with just everybody get playing. So in these group classes, we'll do a lot of things. It's intended for you to be able to be sufficiently challenged so you can make it as challenging as you want for yourself, right? And there's different ways to make it challenging, right? Like you can improvise your bowing, you can play in different positions on your instrument, you can, and sometimes you'll have the opportunity to play at different tempos, different speeds. So those are different ways to make it challenging. But also it's meant to be accessible no matter what your technical level or what your theoretical level. So you can, if it feels challenging, you can always, first of all, you don't have to play anything. You can always just breathe and just be in the room, that's fine. Kind of like a yoga class, they say, just breathe and be in the room. But also you can take slower tempos, you know, or you can do simpler versions or come up with your own version. So I'm really trying to facilitate giving you, almost like in a yoga class, like poses or structures or forms, and then to inhabit those forms or structures. It's not meant to be, and from within that, it's meant to be an exercise for you to gain more awareness, to focus on your breath or to focus on your sound or focus on your body or whatever, just whatever you can get out of it. So I want to start with chromatic exercise. And I'll just give you a really brief example of how I might practice playing chromatically with recurring notes of the same duration, right? So let's call these eighth notes. So the form is just simply that I'm playing a note and then another note at a certain tempo. That's it. Resist the urge to try to add something to it. There's nothing that you need to add to it. As I do that though, again, there's so many things I could focus on, right? So we'll get into that. I'm gonna start with this tempo right here. But what you could do is you could play one note for every 4 of these. That would sound like this. Or you could play one note for every 2. Or for every 1. Or 2 per 1. Or 3. Or 4. Or 6. Or 8. Does that make sense? So we're going to start with that. Ready, go. little pause. That was great. So for the next variation of this, I want you to insert rests. Again, everything's just a suggestion, so you can do your own thing if you want, but I do think that there's value in each one of these forms. So the form we just did, in theory, again, to reiterate, is called recurring notes of an equal duration, right? So like recurring quarter notes, recurring half notes. This time I want to add a variation to that where you continue to play recurring notes of an equal duration, but you also actively include rests, right? Now, if you want to change, if you're like, hey, I'm playing recurring half notes, but now I'm playing recurring quarter notes, or now I'm like, feel free. But I encourage you to try to stay with the form, because later on, if we're playing like a swing tune or a funk tune or a choro or a bluegrass tune, it's going to have a form, right? So we're practicing adhering to some kind of form. Now, I also want to give you one additional thing that you can bring to this next one that you're going to do, and that is to think about what are the metrics that you're focused on. So you could focus on technical metrics. That would be like right arm metrics. That would be like, what's my articulation? You know, what's my dynamics with my right arm? You could focus on left arm metrics, which would be like intonation or shifting or vibrato. But you could also focus on just your own inner talk. Like, what is the inner talk that you're cultivating for yourself? You could also focus on just body awareness. You could also focus on musical metrics, like how crisp is my rhythm, or how clear is my sound. Make sense? Okay, 2, ready, go. So when I might repeat myself a little bit, especially in the beginning of the camp, but when I do this exercise again, I try to not judge it, and sometimes I make this analogy looking at the trees out there. There's like, there's so much diversity in the shapes of the leaves and just the landscape. And so I think when we look at it, we don't judge the trees. We're not like, that tree looks more right than the other tree. Like it might be shorter or taller or whatever, but, and so I try to do the same thing like when I'm doing this type of focused improvisation, where I'm not judging whether it's like the right note or the wrong note. Now I may notice if I'm out of rhythm or if I'm out of tune or like what my sound is, but even with that, I try not to take it personally. I try to see it as just like an opportunity. So for noticing. So even, I'll just as an example. So. Right, it's not, again, like each of the notes that I play, to me, it's just, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just like the tree, It's not about trying to make the note the right note or the wrong note. But I will notice, like, well, how does my body feel? Or how is my breath right now? Or how is my intonation? Or what's my articulation doing? So I'm gonna constantly try to bring you back to that, to noticing things, but not judging and not always trying to like, make things quote unquote right. But being more, yeah. So, but having said that, let's pivot now, and let's think about integrating scales over this A here. So one of the things I like to use is extended range first position. So in extended range first position on the violin, we have G to B. So every scale is some kind of G to some kind of B. So for cello, it would be every scale is some kind of C to some kind of D. So I'm going to show you really quick. So if it's B flat major, then it would be like this. That's extended range first position in B flat major. Now this is extended range first position A flat major. D major. C major. Does that make sense? So I'm thinking about it as a key signature across first position on my instrument. But the practice is actually just kind of learning that. It takes time to learn it. So I want to use this as a beginning for that, and we're going to do A major. So. And I did say on the emails, and I want to say again right now, that you may want to have a piece of paper and a pencil and a music stand at any time. And this is one of those times that it may come in handy for you. Because so I would suggest for this that we can think about 3 sharps, C, F, and G sharp. So if you've got that and you want to try to work on it from your head, feel free to do that. But otherwise, feel free to make a piece of paper and just create a key signature for yourself as a reminder, or to just write it out, okay? And so now, just play out of extended range, first position, A major. Ready, go. I like to do once I have extended range in any key signature is I like to try to do patterns out of it, and it can be any pattern. So this would be an obvious one. Now the thing is, you can do that in any position, so you could do the same pattern in second position. This would be a good opportunity for you, Dalton, to try second position or third position. And you can also improvise your bow. You could do it in one string. So again, there's no reason this shouldn't challenge you, right? So any tempo, but trying to play like that kind of pattern, or a different pattern if you want. Ready, go. do the same thing now with no sharps and no flats. And you can take a different pattern if you want, so. Or you can just do the same things we just did. So no sharps, no flats, go. Let's do two flats. That'd be B flat and E flat, be A locrian. You don't need to know that. A couple other patterns you can try. So you can do stacked sixths. You can explore that if you want. You can also do, how about this? Or any pattern you want. Two flats, ready, go. Major scale over A in the bass. We're going to do A Lydian, which is going to have 4 sharps. So it's the same as E major, right? 4 sharps. Everybody familiar with that? So F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. But it's over A in the bass, so we call it A Lydian, but you don't need to know that. All you need to know is just that key signature. And so a couple other possibilities for you to try would be patterns using thirds, fourths, sixths, sevenths, or seconds. So thirds, fourths, sixths, or sevenths. Ooh, that's going to tricky. Right? So those are just for the crazy ninjas in the room if you want to challenge. It's just an idea. Otherwise, just take any pattern, you know, even. again, if you notice that I'm improvising my bow and maybe improvising my fingering, but trying to focus on, you know, kind of playing with integrity or according to whatever metrics that I'm focused on in my personal practice on that given day. Same thing for you. Go! When it comes to pentatonics, I usually even more strongly recommend that people write it down. I do kind of, in my own mind, I do kind of make a distinction between practicing the major scale and the pentatonic scale, because I guess my theory is that most of us, like, we learn the major scale like when we first start playing, and so we just know so deeply, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, whatever, right? We know like whole, half, whole, half. So it feels like something that we can find by using the key signature, by using our ears. Whereas for me, when I learned the pentatonics, it was not as easy. But I always used to think it was, but it wasn't. I always thought that I knew the pentatonics, but I didn't. So until I like really committed to working on it. So case in point, over this A, we could work on, for example, the A minor and the A major pentatonic. So I would encourage you to write it out if you want to trust me on that, or just make a mental note that you're going to try it your way this time, but then, you know, later on maybe you'll write it out. But just for now, like, play after me if you can, and I'm going to take you through the iterations of the A major and the A minor pentatonic, starting on A. So after me, that's A minor pentatonic, and C. Let's do it together on D. Sorry. Now on E together. G. A. Any position. Going down from A. You can improvise your bow. Whatever articulation. So this is the A minor pentatonic scale, also known as the C major pentatonic. The same scale you used on your solo, right? I would say you're less familiar with. Now this is A major. Play that. Sorry. I'll do it twice. Yeah, I'll do it twice as fast. Play after me. So now this is A major. Also known as F sharp minor. So that's great. So I would really encourage you, like, if you want for your language to include the pentatonic scale, like, because I would say, like, for most of us, we can do a lot of language with the major scale. We can create a lot of musical vocabulary with the major scale, which is beautiful. And then for some of us, we may want to have that pentatonic scale be part of our language too. So if you know that that's what you want to do, I would encourage you to make that one of your goals this week, is to at least wrap your head around, like, at least deciding, like, what are your goals as far as increasing that language, that knowledge of that scale, and how could you do it? And just like, you know, if there's resistance around that, like, let's just figure out what you're going to do for your next step, you know? But ultimately, it would be great to be able to voice lead these two scales together, the major and the minor. So for example, and I'll just show you what it sounds like. So major, minor, major, minor. So I'll let you play it after me until you kind of understand what we're doing. So there's major, minor, major, minor. Right, you might be like, well, that sounds really abstract. But if we put that into the context of like a blues, it might make more sense, or even a bluegrass tune, or a rock tune, or whatever. So let me see if I can figure that out. Yeah, so for example, just to kind of make the point. Well, that was just a horrible bass line. I gotta redo that, sorry. That's just bad. I just have to accept that. So play after me, and I'm just going to do the same thing we were just doing, but over the 1 to the 4, right? Going between A major and A minor, right? So does that make sense? Give you a little more context of how it works. And so a lot of that I learned from Bobby Floyd, a great pianist and organ player from Columbus, Ohio, who mentored me in a lot of this. And one day he told me, he was like, actually, what we do in church is a lot of times we'll switch between the two pentatonics, because I was just playing one pentatonic scale all the time. So anyway, let's switch to one other thing here. Actually, another example of the same principle. So we did this in the class like a couple weeks ago. So some of you were there, but hopefully it won't hurt to review. So I'm going to give you the option now. So you can play C major pentatonic and then E flat major, or sorry, so it'd be, so C major, also known as A minor pentatonic, right? And then we go to C minor, right? right? So you need to think about it that way as we're going from, if you want to think, there's a couple ways to think about it. You can think about it as minor pentatonics. So if you think about it as minor pentatonics, then it's A minor pentatonic, C minor pentatonic, A minor pentatonic, C minor pentatonic. If you think about it as major pentatonics, then it's C major pentatonic, E flat major pentatonic. Or just think about major scale. So if I just played major scale, then it's C major scale. And then we go to E flat major. Right? So those are your choices. Okay, so I'll call it out. Okay, so and I'm just going to say we're in C major, then we're in E flat major. Does everybody understand how to think about being in E flat major? That's, what is that, 3 flats? Right? Ready, go. C major. It goes to E flat major. 3 flats. In Long Island on the wedding band, they do it like that. No sharps, no flats. No sharps, no flats. 3 flats. B flat, E flat, A flat. No sharps, no flats. 3 flats. Back to some of these forms we were doing earlier, but let's put it with this. So it could be a pattern, or it could just be like a duration thing, right? So what if we did recurring quarter notes? Could be recurring quarter notes, or it could be recurring half notes, or recurring eighth notes, with or without rests. But see if you can make the transition from the 2 different keys. Ready, go. Play after me. So again, using the pentatonic or the major scale, using the major scale or the, I want you, if I can take a pattern and I can voice lead between the 2, right? So for example, I made the transition, but I stayed in the same pattern. So I just call that like a voice leading exercise. It could be also if I did, and then the change. So it doesn't matter what pattern you practice, but you try to practice voice leading the 2 scales. Later do the same thing with chords. Or whether it's pentatonic scales or major scales. This, I just want to make sure you understand that concept, and we'll review it. So let's see here. Let's talk about melodic rhythms. Melodic rhythms. So first of all, we were talking about durations, like just recurring quarter notes or recurring eighth notes, but what if we have a melodic rhythm, like ba ba do ba do ba ba? I like that. So listen how I'm going to take the same melodic rhythm, but put different notes with it, okay? Same rhythm, different notes. So you do it. First one's going to be in C major. Ba, 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 ba. Now the next one you have to transition to E flat. Do that like 4 more times. You can think about it. Let's do that one more time. Make it a little easier. We're just going to do bum, 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 bum. So we don't have to think so much about the transition. Ready, go. Listen, new rhythm. Just listening. You got it. Let's just work just a little bit on our right arm groove a little bit to wrap up the class. So maybe just on any note. I want you to see how light I'm being, just the tip of the bow and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. For cellos, you can be the middle if you want. But I like to work on this just a little. Can you try that with me? Yeah, one of the things about making the loops, let alone play along to the loops, is like you kind of have nowhere to hide, right? It's like because that's that's the groove, so I have to play with it. I can't force it to come to me, right? So it's kind of humbling, and it kind of shows, I think, part of the tension of like, well, we're focused on ourselves, but we also have to focus on what we're trying to play with. So that's part of why I like this. Sometimes I find it means we just have to use a lot less bow. A lot harder listening, right? So playing less, listening more hard, you know, and then we can bring in different things with that. So for example, maybe we'll try that one. So it'll be a lot of times like during the week that I want to encourage you to pull somebody aside and be like, hey, let's jam over this. But it could be just jamming over something like this, where like you're doing that. And that's all you're doing. And then like they're playing over top of it, but they're playing half notes. Because that to me is just as valuable as anything. Like if you want to work on groove or if you want to work on creativity or whatever, do it over a structure like that. Instead of like having all these extra things that you have to think about. Chord changes and like hits and all this other stuff. Like why not just like, let's focus on creativity, let's focus on groove, let's focus on playing out of this major scale or this pentatonic scale. I think one of the things that used to hold me back and holds a lot of us back is because we're trying to take on too many things at once. So it's like, I want to learn that tune, but then like there's so many things involved in the tune. It's like, well, I could just work on grooving. So there'll be a lot of times that I'll suggest that. I'll take any questions first of all, and then we'll wrap this class and we'll do a little, in a few minutes, we'll do a little just hang and we'll just walk around the grounds and we'll kind of tell you about where you're at and just give everybody a chance to say hi to each other before we go to dinner. But if you have any questions that you think we won't cover, then go ahead. Yeah.
I was just curious on the last exercise.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between like muting the strings versus stopping the bow?
Yeah, so when I think about it, even if I just did it on the open string, so I don't even need to necessarily to mute, just kind of playing lighter, right? But if I mute, you still hear a little something there. But the exercise to me is just about the accent. It's really just about feeling the accent and keeping the subdivision going. So it's developing a relationship with the subdivisions of the rhythm, using the body to express that. So even if I made extra notes, it would like, I would always recommend if you're learning a new rhythm like this, that what you must do is keep your bow moving. So if I'm going, even if I'm not getting all the accents, we want to keep this motion going, and then gradually you can start to add the accents. Does that answer your question? Awesome. Anything else? Okay, well, let me make some quick introductions, although I don't see, is Camie around? To the other room. Oh, that's cool. Well, oh yay! So this is Camie Vogley-Howes, just introducing our faculty. This is Karl Henry, cello, and this is Jason Anick. And these are, I think, the main faculty, but there are a couple other people that you'll get to know. And so what I want us to do now is just put your instrument down and we'll just meet out here and we'll take a little walk and we'll just kind of tell you about some of the things. We'll just walk around and see the spot.
Side note.
Yeah.
You can do that exercise like with just your hand and just do this.
Oh.
Even when you do it like this, you're literally doing the bow down. Okay? So you connect.
I love that.
Lightly graze, yeah. I realize, like, especially if you're playing like a lot of Latin grooves, you're basically a drummer. You're just going.
Right.
So you subdivide and then like your intention of like where you would actually play.
Yeah.
So you could be like just walking around.
That's right.
That.
What about this too, right?
Oh yes.
You could do it like this.
Vocalize, tap tapping
Yeah.
with the rhythm of your body.
That's
This is a
true.
fun little.
That's beautiful. I've never seen that one before. Because I would do this
Yeah, you
before.
always do it.
I do this one,
Yeah. Before it's working with everybody, it's not out. We go way back. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like